And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Now, in the early 20th century, Marcus Garvey preached taking black people back to Africa. And there's been a long list of individuals saying that since then, but without much success. Most blacks don't want to leave America. Now, in 2020, 19 families in Georgia haven't gone back to Africa, but they've separated themselves from whites with nearly 100 acres of land they have purchased and plan to call home in that state. It's called Freedom, Georgia, a place free of racism, according to those who live there. Tonight, we take a look at the discussion of black separation and how realistic is it in 2020. And joining us to talk about this controversial issue is Sadia Evangelista, attorney here in Houston, activist Derek Muhammad, and activist Tex Christopher. Sadia, I was intrigued when you brought this up a few weeks ago on the show, saying that blacks should separate from the majority here in America. Why do you believe segregation would work in 2020?
So Isaiah, it's not segregation. Let's not confuse integration, segregation, and separation. And a lot of people think that separation is a ridiculous idea, but if you look at the history of the United States, you will see that separation was at the forefront of the forming of the United States, the colonies wanting to break from Great Britain. And there was a lot of unjust things that was happening with Great Britain and the colonies, and there was a Revolutionary War. So, in all of our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. So we have to look at the research of that.
What would you exactly call it, though? Not segregation, separation, what?
Separation. Okay. So when you talk about segregation, you're talking about the separation of inferiors by someone who's a superior. And we've been inferior since the beginning of the inception of this country. I'm talking about separation when we voluntarily decide to be equals and to leave the superior or alleged superior situation. So we control our own, we have our own government, we have our own politics, we have our own economy. And you see that a lot in the Asian community, the middle Asian community. So as African Americans, blacks in the United States, we're talking about separation because we cannot get along with those who believe we're inferior and they're superior. And I'm talking about the white race in the United States.
Now, physically, Sadia, what does that look like? Does that mean leaving the country or going to a separate part of the country? How does that work? What does that look like?
So as a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, one of the things that he talked about what the Muslims want, or what black people want in particular, is to have a piece of our own land, maybe about 8 states. And the government would provide the funding and the financial resource and the minerals and the fertile land for us. Now, it could be here in the United States, or it could be, somewhere internationally overseas. This is not a new concept. When we look at what Marcus Garvey did, when we look at what Noble Drew Ali was attempting to do before the United States government came in and halted what Black America was trying to accomplish.
Derek Muhammad, how does that work for you?
Well, whether people think that separation is a pipe dream or not, it is on the tip of the tongues of many Black people in America today. When you look at the case of Breonna Taylor, when you look at what happened to Ahmaud Arbery, when you look at what happened to George Floyd, it appears as if though no matter how much we march and protest, we just can't seem to achieve justice under this system. So our goal now is independence and ownership. Not only just independence and ownership of our own businesses, but independence and ownership of our own systems. If America's public school system is failing us, we must have our own. If America's economic system is failing us, then we must rebuild Black Wall Street wherever we live. If America's health system is failing us, we must build our own. So when we talk about separation, we're talking about systematized, if that's a word, a way of us being independent and owning our own. And whether people like it or not, barbershops and beauty shops are humming with this idea that the only way for us to obtain freedom, justice, and equality is for us to be separate and on our own.
Tex, let's bring you into this conversation. When you hear them talk about separation, your thoughts on that?
So let me get this straight. We're talking about separation, kind of like the Native American Indians. And then Derek's talking about we have social justice. Here we have our legal problems. We have our problems with the schools. And in the very beginning, segregation, all this started over 60 years ago, and Brown versus Board versus Education in 1954. 66 years ago, we took people like John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, and the NAACP, Martin Luther King, all these people coming together to be able to provide a solution to unite everybody. And there's Jim Crow laws in place, and there's regular laws that are in place that we all have to abide by, all of us, people of all different colors and backgrounds and creeds. And so it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. I mean, if we haven't gotten there.
Let's really stop you there. We're going to take a quick break and come back. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We're talking about separation of African Americans, Black people from the United States, whether it's still here in this country or elsewhere. Tex, you were talking before we took a break.
Right. So in 60 years, and with the Civil Rights Act being here, and that we have things in place where there's Fair Housing Act that's in place. We have all these different social economic programs for people to take advantage of, affirmative action. I think it's time that we roll up our sleeves and get down to brass tacks. Stop making excuses and get to work. Stop breaking the law and be compliant with the law. Our school system, talking about our school systems being broken, it doesn't make sense, man. It's you go from elementary through high school, you learn arithmetic, you learn it with a book. You be teachable, coachable, and trainable. You apply yourself. Now people can go to college just based on the color of their skin. I sure didn't. We didn't have money when I was growing up, so I didn't get to go to college because I was white. So there was no special anything set aside for me to be able to go and do that. So it requires being that law-abiding citizen, someone who says, okay, I got to study thyself approved. The good book says that my people perish for the lack of knowledge. And the word perish means to be wiped off, to be done with, right? So we all get paid. It's all about money, money, money. And money, how it works is it's all based on the size of the problem that you're able to contribute being the solution.
All right, Derek, Sadia, let's jump in.
He brought up the comment about money. And so we're talking about economics. You know, slavery was all about economics. And when you look at the progress of Black people here in the United States, you see that they have not economically progressed much, although we're powerfully if we unite economically. And so, you know, you talk about all of these programs we had during the Civil Rights Act, but all of it was nothing but symbol and no substance. You know, the family households between the white families, they make 59 cents per the dollar. You know, African Americans own 42% of their homes versus 73%. We still see the residue and the impact of what white supremacy and economics have done to Black America. So
you're only 13% of the population
that were set up were there to help us become equal, then we are fooling ourselves, because if we look at the condition of the Black man and the Black woman right now, we are not faring well at all.
Derek,
I agree with Sadia. Integration is a failed experiment. Here we are in 2020, and for every $1 that a white family makes, Black families only make a nickel. So all of the programs, all of the singing "We Shall Overcome," all of the hemming and the hawing and the marching arm in arm, when you look at the statistics, it has not put us in a better condition. The illiteracy rate is higher in integrated Black America than it was in segregated Black America. Again, when we go out and we protest, you hear no justice, no peace. We've been saying that for 60 years and still have not gotten any justice. So the only way for us to achieve peace is for us to put ourselves in a position for self-governance. And are Black people qualified for self-governance? Absolutely. And to say that we are not qualified for self-governance and that integration or independence for us is a pipe dream is just another form of white supremacy, because if America could get its start on the notion of separation, why can't we?
All right, Tex, last 30 seconds here.
We're having this discussion because things aren't working out, because the black card is all used up. It's not working anymore. It's not effective. So now they're trying to issue all the white people a white privilege card. And guess what? We're not buying it.
We don't have to
control
issue
your
a
own
white
destiny.
privilege card because you
control
already
your
have
own
it.
destiny. You control your own destiny. Go out there and make it happen. This is America.
Exactly.
That's
So let us
exactly what
separate.
separation
Let us
means.
separate.
We will control our own destiny.
That's
Thank you
right.
all for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored. Intriguing conversation, and we hope to continue it at some point.